Welcome, everyone, and thank you for being here to the Play to Your Best Summit, an interview series that empowers us to move, nourish, recover, and thrive in perimenopause and beyond. I have the incredible, I'm so excited about this interview. It's been in my brain for a couple of weeks now, actually. Lisa Borden, welcome to the series.
Thank you for having me. I'm sorry I've been in your brain for a couple of weeks. That's
no.
Sometimes people's biggest nightmare. We'll have to see where that goes.
Oh, I think that this is exactly what we're going to do in this interview. But before we get there, let me, I should say I'm Tennille Hoogland. I've been working on a title. I keep on switching it, but this week I'm going to be the Holistic Health and Endurance Performance Coach with Element Sports Coaching and founder of Project 51. So I am so lucky to be in this conversation with Lisa, who is I love this title, so I'm just going to go fully business development consultant and wellness intelligence therapist. Like that's what we're going to dig into with you today. Wellness intelligence. And what does that mean? I actually had to do the math, and I had to keep on going through. I'm like, okay, so 94 to 20, 22, 23. We're
just go with it's
29 years with Borden Communications, which you founded.
Yes.
And I just want to come into that space for a second. 29 years of learning. And you in your bio, you say you're like the best learner, unlearner.
Never the best. Just an learner.
Learner. Yeah, you don't say best actually. Earner, unlearner. It's beautiful. And I think that that's what has enabled you to continue, or I'm positing that it's continued to evolve and change and be in a business, be a leader, and help and support humans to be absolutely their very best. And you do it with strategy and drive and intuition and energy and building community. And you've done it by creating a whole new community in 2021, the Wellness Intelligence Collective. Mother of 3. Amazing. And 7-time published author. I hope we get to hear a little bit more about the Say Yes, your practical self-care, doable stress release, and optimistic thoughts to boost your wellness intelligence. Okay. I know I'm missing a lot of things. I mean, you chocolate.
I just have to interrupt. Yeah, it's like chocoholic, lifeaholic, and Reiki Master. And it's, you touched on what's your label today for this conversation. And I know that you're in charge of this and you're moderating this, but I just have to put this back. It's like labels are just an issue in themselves, right? So you're searching for a label because what I said to you, it's like you do this whole wide scope. So Project 51, what you're bringing to people is actually about connecting the dots. And so I use all these, these titles. My first business card in 1994, which didn't even have an email address, but it said on it, Idea Girl. And the reason why I came up with that was because I didn't know, what am I? Who am I? So I was just Idea Girl. And then it was people who were like, I don't need more ideas. I want to execute. So I was like, okay, and so based on people's feedback, based on people's confusion, based on what people sitting in front of me needed, craved, wanted, that's how I learn. I learn by listening. And if you listen a lot, and then you gain knowledge. We all gain knowledge every day, right?
Yeah.
And so what do we do with that knowledge? And so wellness intelligence is really about doing your best for yourself, which is what you said, which means that you have to question yourself, which means you're taking the knowledge that you learn and you're applying it, which means it becomes wisdom. If you just learn stuff and don't use it, then how are you ever going to grow or evolve or do better or get unstuck or lose that weight or run faster, like any of the goals that you happen to have?
This is why, and welcome to why Lisa's been in my head. It's so funny because it's so true. It's like, how do we communicate who we are and our identities? And why is it that I want to find the right title or the right way to represent what it is? And I think you're right. I keep on getting stuck because it really depends. Like in some cases, we're getting people to start lines, to world championships. We're getting people to performing to their best, which might be getting up a mountain, or it might be all these different things. And so how do I box a person?
How do you box a person? So that's that whole labeling thing. And it's the same way as like, I'm vegan. Well, you're not better than me. And what does that even mean? Because are you eating chemicals, or are you eating like whole food, plant-based? Like, there's so many nuances in everything. We become so black and white, like you're this or this, or it's like, how can I call myself a wellness intelligence therapist? I mean, I have some training in therapy, but I'm not a therapist. I have a degree in French. And so it becomes about, that's why my bio is so long with all these things, is because I want to almost confuse people. It's like, oh, she does a wide scope of really confusing, neat bundle of things. I'm going to check out more about what she does. And so to me, it's about, if I pique someone's curiosity, maybe I'm for them. I walk around in a sweatshirt sometimes that says, I'm not for everyone. And I think we should sort of all wear that, right? It's like finding your person, being your title. It should always be evolving, right? Because you're evolving. So how can we sit with one static title for so long?
Well, and it's so interesting because we come into the space of, okay, perimenopausal. I'm in perimenopause. I'm at early stage, mid stage, last stage, past menopause. Like, what am I? Well, you're exactly where you are. And,
and can I ask a question?
Yeah.
When you're, obviously there's importance, and I'm not doing this from a medical perspective of understanding where we are in our life for specific reasons, but really otherwise, it's like that whole age is just a number. It's like, how do you feel? How does it make you feel? How do you feel? And a lot of the time, these labels almost give us in modern society, like where we are in our culture, I feel like those labels actually almost give us, it's like, well, that's why we're victim to this, or that's why my body looks this way now, or, well, my mother was like that, so she went through this, so that's how I am. So it's, we're all dealt a deck of cards, a hand of cards when we're born. There's genes, there's lifestyle, there's everything that we have, and we have this, but we can play it how we want to. So just because you're in perimenopause or menopause doesn't mean your time's going to be slower in a marathon. It doesn't mean that you can't meditate the same way that you can. Maybe you have to spend time paying attention to more things than you used to in some areas. Right. I find it's like, oh my goodness, my brain's not functioning how it used to. So that doesn't mean my brain's not functioning how it used to. It's like, now, how do I support my brain?
Yeah, it's really switching that. One thing that's coming to mind as you speak is like the stories that we tell ourselves. Absolutely. And that we there, I guess one of my questions then coming out of that is, why do we go there? Like, we want sometimes to we have security in the way we be. So we have security in a label. It's just like, it almost lets us off the hook in some ways. It's like, oh, well, I am this way. Absolutely. I am whatever. And then it's like, I don't have to deal with that because like, I don't have work to do there. It's just like, because I just don't want to do the work, rather than saying something else. Tell me a little bit about what you see with that.
Like my one word answer, which is very rare for me, is conditioning. We are fed so much every day that is noise, that is not authentic, that is not in our best interest. It's like status quo is really, let's say, the opposite of wellness intelligence. So it's like wellness intelligence is questioning everything. So imagine if it was possible that everything we were receiving, whether that's standing in a supermarket and seeing a front of label, whether that's a friend looking a certain way, whether that's people posting on social media about their successes all the time, or, their perfect life. And if we actually took the time to question, what's behind this? Where does that product on the store shelf actually come from? And I'm not saying come from like the factory or the company. I'm saying like trace it back to really where it came from. How did that affect people? You're going to make such a good choice for yourself every single time. And you get to tell your own stories there. So they might be limiting, but not when there's fact. So people say, it's like, oh, can I have that pasta or can't I? And they go to a coach to tell them. Well, what's the filter? And how does that affect me? So that's a story that I'm getting. But if I actually trace that pasta back to where it came from, I'm going to go, what? Like, how was it made? From what? What was added? And then what's it doing to me? And I'm going to find something else that doesn't have that effect on me and has like a positive effect. And then why do I need someone else to tell me that?
So you're speaking to that, and I mean, your example is in pasta, and we can. I'm just, this is my question, and because my brain is working. It's like, okay, so does that transfer out to all our ways of, what are all the different things of, I use pillars of mindset, nutrition, training, recovery. So I'm thinking, okay, so that's a nutrition example. And the source of where something comes from, and thinking about, like, I love this idea. I just want to work through it a little bit more and in other ways of our lives, so we can start to really ground that idea going back.
So it's beautiful that you've said that. It's almost like it's the same thing in anything we do. So think about buying a shirt for yourself. Let's just go to the fashion industry. Let's go to how we all wear clothes every day, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where's that shirt come from that you're buying? So first of all, how does it make you feel when you're wearing it? Are you comfortable? Same with the pasta, the food. Does it feel good when we eat it? What's it doing to me later? Like, some people, I'm wearing like a bit of a turtleneck. Is that something that's uncomfortable? That's not something I can tell you. You should wear this turtleneck. It might be the worst thing. You might not like wearing black. I like wearing black every day. So it depends. It all depends. So if we question it ourselves, where does the material come from? When you go to a store, can you ask somebody, where's my shirt made? Who made my clothes? Who made my pasta?
It's
interesting. Who taught me how to do a push-up?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Same thing. And go back, it all comes back to natural. It all comes back to the soil, whether we're talking about food, whether we're talking about clothes. And you think about movement. Are you going to have a better run? What does this mean to you when you are on a trail in a forest or on a treadmill? And I'm going to say it depends, because some people want the metrics of the treadmill and the feeling of measuring in that way. But really, if you were judging it from a wellness intelligence perspective, not from metrics, you'd be like wearing minimalist shoes, understanding how I breathe, being coached properly so my movement is sound, so I understand how the mechanics to run, and then being in nature. Mm-hmm. It's probably going to serve you better, mind, body, and soul.
Yeah. And I think, so there, I mean, there's so much there. One of the interesting things that you're offering is like intentional. It's like really intentional. And then Anne says, my partner in this and hosting of this series is, she loves the word to discern and to understand, where do we use and tap into different components of what we want to be and what we want to create, and the treadmill versus the trail run, and discerning when do we need one thing or another. And this could go into a broader training perspective as well, as, what should we do? What are the guidelines saying for athletes or women in perimenopause and beyond?
So then you're ignoring so much data. And I mean data as in terms of, again, what do I need? What do I want? How do I feel in this? So I'm not saying that treadmill is a bad idea. I'm just saying that what are the other options? And it's the same as pasta. So we know that if you're talking about nutrition, whether you're talking about for a child in perimenopause, no matter what, and I'm not a nutritionist, but there's no nutritionist that's going to argue with me that is going to say that variety is a really good thing.
Yeah.
Right? Like there's no, like variety is a really good thing. So when you're moving, if you're moving in a sagittal plane and you're always moving in a linear way, you're not training anything laterally, rotationally. There's no multi-dimension. We want multi-dimension in everything we do. So it's great to get your probiotics from sauerkraut. But if you're always buying the same sauerkraut that's made in a huge factory, and that's what you're eating every single day, how's that serving your body as a whole? So it's even like breathing your biome, going into nature for that run is great, but not the same trail every single day. Go different, find a different path. There's so many paths for everything.
It's an excellent point of variability and on all aspects. And we want variability within our hormones. We want variability in our nutrition. We want variability in how we move. We want variability and actually it's in our variability and training our variability in which we're able to be like, this is a question too, but a comment is, when we have the variability, we can respond to the environmental stressors that we're in. If we are, and when we haven't touched into that variability, what happens is if we get stuck. We don't know how to move.
Plateau, right? You
plateau. Or it's called chronic stress. We can't add stress because we're in a chronically high stress point. And so we're having such a hard time moving up and to come down. I mean, that's what training does.
So I just have to reflect this back to you because, we stop at, when I was saying about passion, you're like, how does this apply to other things? If we replayed what you just said, that was the best business coaching you could give an entrepreneur on how to build a business.
Okay.
But I'm saying it's the thing that you have to, that I want everyone to take away. It's like, you're your own best expert. And sanity is a group project, right? Sanity is a group project. So we do need each other. Like we're here to learn from each other, but it's not like you can do it on your own and you know everything. I don't mean that, but I mean that the variability, the response to things like being stagnant versus being active, that matters in your workday. We're both sitting right now. That's why I teach that program about exercise snacks.
Yeah.
Go do your training, but please don't sit for 10 hours. I've been there. I've done that. I know the difference now in what I teach, and I'm marketing movement. I'm not teaching the movement, but what you just did is because you know what you know and you teach and you train what you do so well, Tennille, if you just apply that same knowledge you have in this pillar to not just your pillars, but actually to running your business, you'd be like, oh my goodness, like I don't need a business coach. That's what I always say. If you can get knowledge from a $10 book or a $25 book, go for it. You don't necessarily need a $10,000 program. And that goes for fitness or for eating or for coaching, for anything.
Well, awesome. Thank you. I can't I'm so glad that I can replay this. Keep hearing it back. Yeah. But I also wanted to say how we show up in one component of our life is exactly how we're showing up in the other components of our lives. And so that to me, and maybe speak a little bit to that, because I can see how I do, like how I trained as a professional triathlete. Then that's how I started started my business. And what happened when I trained as a professional triathlete? Well, my story is I broke down. I became injured. My hormones got crazy. Like everything just started falling apart and I couldn't sustain it. And when I first started the business, I know how to work hard. There's no doubt you don't get to be a professional athlete without knowing how to have that drive. But maybe you can talk a little bit about how that shift has to happen and where we have to look at how we are in one component of our life and thriving, and then how we kind of think about that in all the aspects of our life, because you're a business consultant and you're very specific to say, I'm supporting businesses to be phenomenal but I'm also supporting humans to be phenomenal. There's no,
so it's interesting. Exactly. And just to say, it happens when there's alignment. So this was not part of my business plan. And You know, it's like you said, you got into your business because of. So remember why you started, right? Like that's that first thing. Like, remember why you started. Like, why did you become a mother? Why did you want to become an athlete? What, like, so it's about talking to yourself. And it's so interesting that you bring that up because, you know, I was a mom, I would say harried, like meaning I was not practicing nervous system regulation at the time, let's just say. And I don't mean harried, I mean like commonly so.
Yeah.
Wiping my kids' plastic high chair down with Lysol wipes. And I say that because for those that don't know me, it's I can't even be in a space with a Lysol wipe. I would never support Lysol as a company. I don't like supporting companies who support Lysol as a company, like, and not to bring up brand names, but I'm saying that as an example that my oldest child will be 22 next month. So this is new to me. We're all on a journey. And so wherever you are today, it doesn't really matter. Perimenopause, menopause, teenager, doesn't matter who's listening. You want to become an athlete? Become an athlete, right? There's like, you're 80 years old, you can still do whatever you want to do if you're honest with yourself and you bring into alignment. And so I'll tell you how I got into this because I think it's relevant and you can cut me off if you want to, but I started in business development, helping people make money without compromising ethics in an efficient way, really looking at the person. So understanding that 2 holistic nutritionists coming into my office, we're going to take away obviously similar kinds of programs or things, but treated totally differently because there's an energy and an exchange and it's about the person. That's where like plain old group learning where there's no exchange of energy. I think there's probably a limit there. The same as reading a book, right? There's no exchange of energy. It's we're being delivered a gift, but there's no exchange. And I was doing this. And when I went through the fast forward version is when my second child was born, she had tons of health issues. One was being in the hospital at 3 months. Being very fortunate, I got into all these specialists to see. And at 2 years old, she was also diagnosed with anaphylactic food allergies. And so all of these things and a terrible experience with conventional medicine threw me into, I'm going to Google this. And at the time, actually, it wasn't Google. It was like, whatever it was, some kind of message board search. Yeah. And you didn't get 3 bazillion answers that you had to go, what's this mean? I got maybe 3. And I ended up on this message board with a whole bunch of other moms, crazy moms who were, I think that's actually what it was called. And they had helped their child by removing chemicals from their home. And so I did, without a lot of faith, I should say. And I removed the chemicals from my home and my daughter's skin and breathing and everything that the whole medical community was working for 2 years with me on, all of a sudden was clear. She was so much better. And so not being somebody about moderation and being someone who really does go all in, I started to do an audit on everything else in my home. And that included my cooler bag has lead in it. My kitchen has microplastics and plastics everywhere. My shampoo has, oh my God, what is this? Yeah. And so in that inventory, I had 2 choices: shut down and be like, this is way too much, or how did I not know that? How did I not know that? How can I use this to do better for myself? Because I have to, better for my family. This is crazy. I'm a mother. And so I did. And so my husband would joke that every day he would come home and there'd be like an entire recycling. And you can't even throw a lot of these things out. You have to actually call hazardous waste. And that's what's being sold to us. So you talk about what's being sold to us conventionally, that back to that conditioning. And the long story short is I looked at my business and I thought, oh my God, I can't help these companies make money. I can't put logos on bottles of water when I know what that is. And so actually in 2003, I lost around probably 90%, maybe more of my business, because all of a sudden I didn't feel I was in alignment with what I was doing in my life. And I brought my business into alignment to have those ethics, and my zone of clients went from this big to like, oh my God, there's nobody to work with. Where do I find the people that care? And I will tell you, it was a really it was an undecision. Like it wasn't an option to me. I just like, meaning how could I be hypocritical, or what I call oxymoronic?
Yeah.
I brought it into alignment, and it took time, but I am so happy. You talk about from 1994 till now, evolving constantly, connected to people like you who I get to actually learn from. I want to be I want to be in the room with other people who care and, strive for excellence and understand that. I mean, I know the more I learn, the more I realize I know nothing. I don't know about you, but I learn by being part of conversations like this. I learn from myself speaking, from listening to you speak, and listening to other people have conversations. It's a gift.
Yeah, it's the power of, I love it too. I love that you say, like, the more that you start to think the more you realize you don't know. And
anything.
That has been like the most, I thought when I first started my business, I thought, okay, well, it was like when I first started being an athlete, because how we be in the world. So I thought I had to get somewhere. Okay, so it's a rival. Okay, once I get there, once I know enough. Same thing for the business, right? Like once I know enough, once I've got all the nutritional certifications, once I get, and then it was like at some point I was like, oh shoot, I'm never going to know enough, because we keep on changing. The science keeps changing and evolving, and we don't actually have any data on females. We actually don't.
Right.
We've never studied them before. Oh, by the way, did you actually question that? Did you actually think about that? Did you actually notice how you're doing? And so I now take great pleasure in not knowing, because that means that I'm grappling with something deeper than what I had before. Whereas I didn't get that before. So I guess let's bring it to the audience and the listening, and saying, okay, so how's a way that we can take this on is like, you're not knowing exactly what to do is exactly where we need to be.
Oh my goodness. And that's the gift. It's like, everything's really uncertain. So if you need to know something for sure, you're sort of missing the boat. Like you can't know for sure. And if you know for sure, you're probably missing like some really beautiful things. And, it's cliche to say you have to trust the process, trust life, trust the process. I don't like when people say everything for a reason. We were discussing, like, not everything for a reason. Like, how could that be for a reason? It's so horrible. But, it is everything. There is this process to, how do I know what my title is going to be? Does it really matter? Like, does my title really matter? How do I show up? And it's like marketing. I'm in marketing, and I'm the first person to tell you, it's like, you know what, show up as your authentic self, because then you're going to attract the right people. And it sounds, going back to marketing, it's the problem with titles is people have like ruined a lot of words. Like if I hear one more person try and sell me on living my best life, I want to like throw myself on the floor. Like I'm like apoplectic about that. However, there's actually some people that are really doing good work like you
around
to help people live their best life. Same with me. It's just our words and our marketing claims are not, and the labels are not the important thing. It's the essence behind it. So when someone's hiring a coach or trying to solve a problem or wants to eat better or learn how to meditate or feel better in their body, or, I have pain, these are my obstacles or these are my goals. The best thing you can do is just question everything, the humans in your life, the food you're eating, and then seek out the communities like this, Project 51. Like these are gifts where people can tune in and learn, and where there's connection, just follow up on that connection. That's all it's about. And sunken cost fallacy. Do you know that one?
Yeah. Tell me. Sure. Yeah.
When something's not working anymore.
Yeah.
Don't worry about what you've invested into it. Worry about where you are right now. And if it's a sunken cost, you've invested, you've done it, move on, move to the next thing. Don't hang on to something because it's certain. It's that not knowing. It's like, I don't know what's next. It's hard to jump. It's hard to give up on what we know to go for what we don't. But, so a new trail could open up the possibility for everything.
Yeah. it's not having the right answer. There is no right answer. Like, what you're really saying. And we want the perfect program, or we want to figure out the recipe, or
the fastest way.
Fast. Yeah. And that's not where transformation happens. And I mean, it's a big word, transformation. What does even that mean? But it's like how, if we're caught in a cycle of like, I need to get out of this. I'm frustrated. I'm tired. I am this, I am that. I am, why are we part of the summit? Why are we listening to these interviews? And if we're caught in that, this isn't the answers. Where do we enter into a conversation with ourselves? And I think to just bring it back into the original point is come back to the source. And I love that. Because where do we start? Where do we start as humans?
Right where you are at this very moment with everything you have. And it's about, you said essence or source. That's the name of my latest book, which is Say Yes. And it's saying yes to the right things. There's so many programs that are teaching us now to say no. Here are the boundaries. Here are the boundaries. Here are the things we need to do. It's like, instead, what happens if you focus on the other side? Like, what am I going to say yes to today that makes me feel really good?
Mm-hmm.
And it comes from a place where I don't really know. I'm just sharing what I've learned, because it took me a long time. I was helping a lot of people do a lot of amazing things.
Mm-hmm.
And I was not taking care of myself. I was not saying yes to myself.
Yeah. So can we talk about that just a little bit? Because I want to just understand a little bit more about that idea of saying yes to yourself, this idea of self-care, including the intermittent movement. And you mentioned earlier on in this interview that we were in, I want to say conversation because it feels more like that. This idea of like, do your workout and then you're done. It's not going to work. And tell us just a little bit about that community that you were speaking to, of like the workout snacking, and how to keep in movement, and how this is really where at the essence of health in this one pillar, right? Like in this one component of keeping moving is where the answer is, and what you offer in that way.
So I just want to say, so it's, again, think of when you replay that, like that's the best business advice. Keep moving, right? If you stop innovating, you're actually going backwards. As business advice for anyone listening who's an entrepreneur, just to laterally shift, right? How you think, your mindset, your skills, they're all able to be moved into all the areas of your life that you want to show up for. Wellness intelligence is what I sell. And I mean, sell, I give it away. The community is free to join. The reason why I do this in service is because I've been sitting in this exact office for over 20 years. Mm-hmm. And I can go for a long time. And I used to not hydrate, and I used to sit at my desk. And by the way, I was excellent at what I did, meaning the work I was producing was great.
Yeah.
My back hurt every Saturday. I gave myself the treat, the self-care of a massage. But guess what? I don't actually need massages because I do intermittent movement now. I always worked out. I always ate well, but you can always do better for yourself. And so that idea of self-care that you brought up, there's so much in what you said, but I just want to touch on self-care. What is that? Is that something that is accessible if we have the money to go for a really expensive massage?
Yeah.
I don't have time for self-care is bullshit, because you can always stack it into your day. As I said, it's like, I did not grow up like this. It's been a choice. B, I work full-time overtime for anyone that knows me since 1994, and I've had 3 kids. And I do not wear busy as a badge of honor or burnout. That's not what I'm saying this. I'm just saying it's possible.
Yeah.
You just have to say yes to yourself. So that idea of self-care can be, I hydrate now. And when you hydrate a lot, guess what? You have to get up and pee. And when I go to the bathroom, I stack, which is the idea of stacking habits is not mine. It's BJ Fogg from Tiny Habits, or James Clear from Atomic Habits, like I give credit to where credit's due, but I stack an exercise snack, which is the program that I teach. So it means doing a walking lunge back to my desk. It means crawling back to my desk.
It means we're all doing bear crawls back to our desk.
That's what we teach. That's what we teach. And it's so interesting because all of this self-care stuff, wellness intelligence, came from working with gifted entrepreneurs, like people like you, who show up with so much wisdom to share. Yet in all those other areas, we show up for ourselves, like where we're really good at. And then it's all of a sudden like, I'm not good at that. Like, I don't know. I'm too busy. I can't go there. And it's like, no, it's actually the same thing. And Charles Eisenstein, who's somebody who I love to listen to, he says, sanity is a group project. And my best teachers have been my clients. And yes, I've been in business for a long enough time that I've been fortunate enough to have a lot of clients and a lot of really incredible clients because of that zone that I work in, that I say I help people who care make money, not just anybody. And so when I sit and I watch and I listen to a genius naturopath or someone who studied quantum physics or a biological dentist or someone who's creating a reusable water bottle or whatever it happens to be, you listen to that passion or learn about food, and then I apply it into what I do and I market that concept back. So these programs that I teach are actually about becoming your own best expert. I'm not instead of. Wellness intelligence is just something you layer on everything you're doing. So it doesn't mean you give up your fitness coach or you give up your business coach or you give up your dietitian, whatever it is. It's just a layer to ask a few more questions. Don't worry about knowing or not knowing. It's the journey that matters. It's trusting the process. But there's a little tidbit every single day that I show up to share with people that might be, instead of an overwhelming amount of information, here's one exercise. This week, when you go to the bathroom, crawl back to your desk. If you can. If you can't, because the floor's dirty, how about walking lunges? How about walking with your hands over your head? Because how often do you do that, right? So it's just about, and those things end up shifting people's mindsets. And then they're open to more.
And that, like, coming back to your very first title, the idea. It's like, this is just ideas, and offering those ideas and sharing the wealth of information that you've gathered, because you've been this person that have like come around and let's gather together. I love that you embrace us all and coming in, and here's the wealth and the wisdom that we all come together. And so that is really so to segue, this is works very well into that. This is a free gift to anybody who is listening to this. If you want a 1-month trial to the self-care studio in the Wellness Intelligence Collective, that's basically, you've just given an idea of what this is. It's ideas of how we can start adding and saying yes to, I don't need to say I don't have time, because this is different way. There's different ideas here for you.
Yes, that self-care studio every Tuesday morning, 2 minutes to read through on your own, nothing to show up for, on your own time. You read through, it'll tell you what, it'll tell you why, it'll tell you how, it'll make you feel positive about it. And then you can decide to do it or not. And I look forward to, your exercise snack is going to be available as well. And so it's an amazing thing where people can actually, that's in the exercise snack studio. So within the Wellness Intelligence Collective, there's the Kind Food Studio, and there's the exercise snack studio, and there's the self-care studio. Everything is open. There's no charge for anything. The self-care studio is a paid subscription, which I want to offer everybody for a month.
Oh, so beautiful. All right. Well, before we go into my rapid fire questions for you, is there anything else that you wanted to say?
Yeah, just we could hang out for another, the idea of a conversation instead of an interview or instead of a presentation. I hope it just, I guess, it's what I've said to you before, is that really, I don't know anything. I don't have the answers to anything, except for one thing I know for sure is we really lack conversation. And if everyone can stay open and present to having more conversations in their life about everything, I think the world would be a much happier place. And I think we'd have also a different sense of ourselves. So keep having conversations.
Yeah. I just want to say, I thank you for that. It's interesting because it's hard to sometimes ensure we create the space and make it as a priority. Like I have an instance this afternoon. I really want to show up for this incredible woman who lost her son to an overdose. And I am just like, oh my goodness, I'm so busy. I'm so busy. And it's so important to me and I need to show up. And it's just, I'm going to show up because we need to be in conversation and to create space when it's seemingly difficult to do.
Well,
Yeah.
that showing up,
Yeah.
I believe, in my experience, that showing up is the very hardest thing to do. And once you've shown up, then it's just like it's doing, it's being, it's the showing up, it's making that decision to show up. And going back, that's what Say Yes is about. It's not about saying yes to myself only. It's about saying yes to showing up for myself. And you know that after that, as much as that's so hard, and there's so much, you're going to create the safe space and you're going to give, and giving feels really good. There's so many ways that I could be spending my time right now. I'm delighted to be present. I am grateful for the opportunity to have this conversation. I hope that one person takes something away, that it changes their life because of listening to our conversation. So I'm happy to be right here.
Well, that one part I know is for me. Tick. Okay, great. Everybody else wants
and me. One other person.
All right. Okay. So this is going to be, we're going to try to keep these rapid fire. Are you ready?
Okay. Yeah.
What in your work or in your learning are you super excited about, right now? Like, what are you learning and just can't wait to dive into it a little bit more?
Qigong.
Oh, wow. Cool. Nice. We have a speaker that does Qigong. So that's really neat.
I'm just taking my certification. That's that constant learning.
Yes. Oh, so cool. What is one thing you are grateful for?
My family. It always comes back to my family. That's my soil, my husband and my 3 kids.
I love that way of saying it. It's my soil. Amen to that. What is one principle that you live by?
Well, I mean, the African proverb that I've used, that's the green mosquito is my mascot. And it's like, if you try, it's like, if you don't think you can make a difference, try sleeping in a room with a mosquito.
Huh. That's so cool. Okay. I'm going to have to, you're going to be in my brain again for weeks. So perfect. All right. I'm going to give you the last word. I just say, I can't thank you enough for being part of this and just sharing in such a rich conversation that I'm for one going to listen to again and again. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. I will listen too. Like I said, I write this book. I read a page every single day as a reminder to myself of what I've put out there. So we all need those reminders, and sometimes it's nice to listen to ourselves in a humble way, right? So thank you. Thank you. Thank you.